Alright.
Introduce yourself and tell us about the project.
So my name is Hussein Zaidi. I was the project manager leading a group of 5 members. Initially, we were required to make 2 RC planes, one being a foam aircraft and the second being a 3D printed aircraft made by plastic. The requirements for the aircraft were that that it flies for 2 minutes, a maximum of 2 minutes. That it has a dollar coin and a ping pong ball, figure eight maneuver, as well as do an unassisted takeoff. And initially we were able to, in leading to the actual manufacturing of the aircraft, we first off started with a conceptual design report in which the wing loading and the aspect ratio was calculated in order to determine what was required to have the 2 RC planes flying in the air.
G'day, I'm Archie Sturt. I was the lead designer and assistant manufacturer for this project. When we first started this project, we had a lot of different designs that we were thinking of going with. First off, we really looked at something that was going to be unconventional. We tried to look through things like a T-tail or a biplane. But in the end, we thought our best chance of actually succeeding was to make something more conventional. And this was good for us because there was a lot of information out there which helped us or aided us to be able to design this properly, which was fantastic because it made things really smooth sailing when we first tried to design our plane initially. Leading into the testing of the plane was a little bit different. Our design was good, but we had a few things that still just left the plane not flying. We had issues with the wheels, with the wing. We had a few test flights where it sort of wouldn't stay in the air. It would just sort of lean off left. And unfortunately, that was all due to different manufacturing issues and design issues. And so we kept revisiting, going back, and a few test flights later, we were able to actually show exactly our efforts as it sort of came off the ground after a couple of tries into the air. Unfortunately, it just didn't stay in the air as long as we wanted the first couple of tries.
Hello, my name is Dylan Ewan. I am the assistant manufacturer and designer of this project. During this project, we took the plane out for many test runs. One of those test runs was in the park. Actually, we took it for a few test runs in the park, let me correct myself. Every time we took it though, the weather was a massive interruption and a problem. Although we learnt many things, such as the wing position being too far back, we adjusted the center of gravity a few times. Many things, but what I would say is that most of our data that was useful we learned when we were inside a gymnasium in which there was no wind or rain or weather disruptions. There were many problems that we had. One of the problems we had when testing our aeroplane was that the wheels were not properly supported. We decided to design an almost brace system so that we could keep them stiff while taking off. If not, the wheels would collapse from underneath themselves and the plane would almost do a nosedive before taking off. When testing our first prototype outside, we often had problem with the weather. Therefore, we would often crash the plane, which would end up destroying the nose cone. When fixing this, we accidentally faced the propeller downwards, which didn't provide thrust in the right direction. Therefore, we had to adjust the propeller's direction and move it a little bit more upwards so we could get the right thrust so that we could, allow the plane to lift.
Hi, my name is Ben, and I'm the pilot and the lead manufacturer. During the test flight, leading up to the test flight, we've encountered some crashes and some issues, leaving our plane in not the best condition. On the day of the test flight, we rebuilt our plane, at least components of it, with tape, pins, whatever we had, as it was in a rough shape. In the end though, managed to fly, complete the 2 minutes, carry the ping pong ball and the dollar coin, as well as do the figure 8, therefore having a successful test flight.
Head of Research and Development for this project. Following our last project, we had some time off for the mid-semester break. We were quite stressed out from the time crunch at the end of the project, and we had 1 week off. After the break, we got straight into the next project, and we learned from our previous mistakes and were able to complete this project much faster. Similar to the first prototype, we used the first few weeks, the first few lessons to discuss how this plane will be built.
For the second prototype design, we were required to use the same rotor and the same servos, as well as the same propeller, which proved to be much more difficult as the 3D printed design was 4 times heavier than the initial foam design, in which the team had to come up with a new design report, a design plan to execute this. So by delegating tasks, we were able to give out different tasks to each team member, looking at their different abilities in different areas, what they were able to achieve in this prototype to have the successful manufacturing of this prototype.
When starting our second prototype design, we knew that it needed to be manufactured from 3D plastic. This meant it was going to be a lot heavier than our initial design, so we needed to change a few things. We decided to use CATIA as our 3D modeling program because it was probably one of the better programs for us to be able to maneuver through and adjust our designs properly, especially when we needed them. And then we went into the 3D printing stage. That was very long. It took a while for each of our prints to actually come through the printers. Some weren't strong enough and we had to reprint. Some were too thick, it made it too heavy. It made it pretty difficult to actually get our plane made. And sort of delayed us a lot, which was really unfortunate because we had, even though we'd already done the first prototype, the second one just seemed to be way more daunting. And we got off to a really rocky start.
When designing our second prototype with the 3D printers, we would often make mistakes in terms of the design. One of the mistakes we would make is that the thickness of the walls would often be too thin. This would create problems in terms of connecting with rods, and it would cause the plastic to break. Often the infill density of many of our parts was too high. This would create uneven weight distribution and overall affect the aircraft's weight negatively. Our aircraft came in at roughly about 150 to 160 grams. However, desirably, we would want it sitting at about 100 to 110 grams. Therefore, we had to make many adjustments throughout the process in terms of reprinting parts and making sure that their wall thickness was perfect. We had to make sure that the density was perfect. Because of these problems with our second prototype and the 3D printing, we often had to push back our flight testing days. We would rock up to test our plane, and we would have to reprint parts.
On the day of the test flight, we were having a lot of worries about the overall weight of the plane. Proving right, as our plane first it didn't want to come off the ground, let alone it didn't want to go in a straight line. We ended up rectifying the problem by moving the rear wheel upwards as the rear control horn for the elevator, was hitting the ground, causing the plane to spin on takeoff. And unfortunately, we couldn't get the plane to fly for the whole 2 minutes or to have a stable flight, but we did get the plane off the ground with the ping pong ball and the gold coin after reducing some weight.
Going into this project, we had high expectations of what we wanted to do. We had some major setbacks due to weather issues and some other hardships, but ultimately, we were able to get the plane off the ground and have a successful flight. For the second prototype, we hit the ground running. We were doing really well at the start, but we did hit some more issues and some setbacks related to 3D printing. Although we didn't complete all the desired requirements, we were able to get the plane in the air, and this concluded the project.